It has been years since Gotway released an electric unicycle that truly excited the UC ridership. It's been nothing but a parade of problems and disappointment.
I don't get how this could have happened.
And what's worse, fire. All the while their competitor has just been eating away at the performance leak that they have spent years building before.
See, Morty? Now we're both accountable.
But no more. Woo! All that end this week with the announcement of the very first 134-volt electric unicycle ever.
Make your dreams come true!
This week, are you ready for the Gotway Master? Roll the intro. Like and subscribe and hit that bell icon to be notified of new videos, and we'll be BFF forever. In case if you're wondering if it is possible to ride an electric unicycle in the snow, and the answer is yes, as long as you do so carefully.
That's why I went to get the shovel. I'm like, I need this shit.
Could have did it. And land on my ass, probably. A year ago, when Gotway was in the depth of its current slump, with little interest nor pre-order to show for their latest Monster Pro and EX release, and a slew of fire plaguing their existing wheels, I had a brilliant idea that I thought would solve their problem.
Don't you have to be stupid somewhere else?
Not until 4.
Knowing that they would never listen to me, I figured that they would consider it if the request were to come from a dealer, so I asked my friend Afiz from E-Ride to convey my suggestion, and that is simply this. We don't choose to ride Gotway wheels because of their design, reliability, or build qualities. We choose Gotway because of their performances. If they want out of their slump, raise the wheel voltage and build us an electric unicycle with the power and speed that would blow us away. In another word, build us our 60 miles per hour electric unicycle. The request was delivered, but unfortunately all Afiz and I got was a polite refusal and some vague promises about safety and quality control. And over the past year, Gotway continues to flounder and their desperation grows with each passing days. They resorted to their old strategy of rapid iterations and releasing as many new models as they can, hoping for a hit. And in the span of 1 year, they released a total of 12 new wheels, and the response? Meanwhile, their competitions not only closed the performance gap, some would say they smashed it when Hsiang announced their very first 127-volt wheel, the S20, and for the first time, the performance advantage Gotway had built evaporated overnight. And none of this was unfortunately surprising to me. They never were much goodwill nor brand loyalties when it comes to Gotway wheels rider. They never listened to a thing we asked, and we all know that the component and the engineering on these expensive wheels we buy are somewhat subpar at best, but we buy them anyway. Because of our ultimate loyalty was to power and speed, and for a long time, there were no other wheels quite like a Gotway. But that is now ancient history. And for the last 2 years, if you're looking for the ultimate in electric unicycle performances, then the veteran Sherman was the better choice. And with the third iteration of its suspension wheel, the EX20S, renamed shortly after its introduction, so I don't know, confused people into buying it instead of the Hsiang S20? Like, really? Anyhow, it was announced less than a month ago, and once again, failed to draw much interest. And with this latest failure, Gotway is finally desperate enough, apparently, to give me the wheel I had asked for a year ago. Which brings us to the announcement of the Gotway Master, the very first 134-volt electric unicycle ever. And with a free spin speed of 70 miles per hour, you would theoretically be able to hit 55 miles per hour while riding in optimal conditions, and that would make this the fastest production electric unicycle in the world. And shockingly, that speed was achieved by a C38 torque motor, which means that when Gotway inevitably released the high-speed variant, and let's not go with the pretense of somehow that they're not going to do it because it's unsafe or whatever. They're just going to wait until I guess enough people spend their money on the high torque variant in the hope that somehow they will buy the wheel again. The rationale Gotway have for their releasing is baffling. With the C30 motor and assuming a similar spread as the 100-volt variant between high speed and high torque, a free spin of 80 miles per hour and a ride cutout speed of 62 to 63 miles per hour should be achievable. I'm gonna let that sink in for a second. Here we have finally the recipe for the long-awaited 60 miles per hour electric unicycle and the leap forward for EUC performances we have been long waited for. I say long awaited because you see, despite the many advances we have seen over the last few years, suspension, design, and even the addition of a brand new EUC company, there is one area where development has stagnated. Between 2016 and 2018, the EUC speed cap grew from 24 miles per hour to 34 miles per hour and then made the leap to 45 miles per hour with the MSX 100 volt in 2018. And you have to understand that the benefit of this rising speed cap is also reflected in a similar power increase through the wheel's entire speed curve, since how much you have to push a wheel is determined not by the actual speed, but where you are in its entire speed band. For instance, 25 miles an hour only requires a leisurely neutral stand on an EXN, which has a top speed of 50 miles per hour. But if you were riding the S18, which has a top speed of 30 miles per hour, that would be a full toe forward lean that you likely would not be able to maintain for a long time. A high top speed wheel will always feel more powerful even at lower speed. That plus the obvious benefit of having more headroom and safety margin make higher top speed wheel one of the most desirable trait of any electric unicycle. But since 2018 and over the span of the last 4 years, even with the introduction of the mighty Sherman, we only gain a measly 5 miles per hour to that top speed. And you probably noticed that every single fast wheel on the list had been a Gotway, and it is true that for a long time, they had led the field when it comes to performance, but as their own development slowed in recent years, their competitors have woken up to the consumer demand for greater speed and power and have slowly eaten away at the performance gap till now. Where Gotway's fastest wheel, the Monster Pro, is only marginally faster than their much more popular competitor, the veteran Sherman. And unfortunately for Gotway, marginally just isn't good enough to tip the buy decision in their favor. You see, the reason why I asked Gotway to up their voltage and speed a year ago is because I knew that the only way Gotway could be competitive is if their wheels are significantly faster and more powerful than anyone else's. And that is the singular truth about the Gotway Master. And if you're wondering if this is going to be a better engineered, constructed, or safer wheel, I can settle that right now and just tell you that no, it is not. Gotway wheels have never been any of those things, and they likely never will either. Gotway has always been about the push for the very edge of what is possible by whatever means it takes. And if you want to ride a Gotway wheel, you better figure out how to limit your own risk and when to stop pushing, since the wheel will let you run right over a cliff if you like. And even without having the Gotway Master in hand, I can also confidently tell you that my recommendation for all Gotway wheels still stand, which is that unless you buy them with the custom safer e-wheel battery pack, they're not recommended due to fire risk. Period. Nothing is worth that risk. So why? Why bother with a risky and poorly built wheel, which its only redeeming quality is a top speed that you should probably never hit? For that, let me tell you this. Do you know how terrible the Lamborghini Countach is actually as a car? For one, they're insanely low to the ground to the point where if you're driving one, all you get to stare at all day is other people's tailpipe and rear bumper. And the ground clearance is so low that if you were to drive over a manhole cover at anything above 5 miles an hour, it would probably be absolutely disastrous. And have you seen the Top Gear clip where they actually attempt to parallel park the thing?
You can actually drive it while not being in it. And we're off. How about that? This was a technique developed at the Lamborghini factory.
The moon landing was probably a little bit easier. Not to mention that it is probably just about the only thing on four-wheel that is worse to drive around on a day like this than even my 9x10. And despite all of its problems, the Countach is a magnificent car. Not because it's beautifully designed, because none of that styling would have made a lick of a difference if the machine underneath it wasn't capable of doing 200 miles per hour. And the truth is that none of us need an electric unicycle. We got around just fine before having one, and in the end, it is just a toy. A magnificent toy, and an aspirational one that have come to represent power, freedom, and the impossible. And for some of us, the second best, our fastest, just won't quite do. So what do you think? Are you willing to risk it all for that sweet 134 volt power and speed? Or are you sick and tired of the low effort poor QC BS Gotway tries to pass off as products? Well, that is what the comment sections are for. And you know what? Aha! I somehow managed to trick you into wasting another 15 minutes of your life, but I hope you enjoyed it. Shout out to my supporter on Patreon. Please check out the link in the video description below if you enjoy and like to support my work. And as always, as much as we all love electric unicycle, the only way for us to get better wheel is to grow as a community, so tell your friend and teach them how to ride and get them hooked. Until the next video, thank you. And what is this mystery package that is coming straight from China to my door? Stay tuned.
One thing about music, when it's real, they get scared. When it's music, when it's real, they get scared. They get scared. Got us music when it's real, they get scared. Thing about music, when it's real, they get